You've decided to start advertising online because you want some of those juicy leads to grow your trade business, but you don't know whether to use Facebook or Google Ads. Well, in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down which one you should use and why. G'day, you legend, and welcome to the podcast. So, you're going to start online advertising, or maybe you are advertising online on some of these platforms and you just haven't seen the results that you thought you were going to get, right? So, to understand these platforms, I'm going to break them down into two separate categories of advertising. The first one is Google search-based ads, and I'm specific about the search-based, which is what most service-based businesses will be using. So search is something we call an intent-based advertising platform, because when a customer, a prospect comes to Google, they have a search query which has intent behind it. Whether that is an intent to buy or convert is another question, probably for another podcast, right? But they have some sort of intent behind what they're doing, okay? Now, if we contrast that to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of these social media advertising platforms, these are called interrupt-based advertising, because essentially you are interrupting people's flow. And this is nothing new, right? So interrupt-based advertising is actually the oldest form of advertising there is. You can talk about TV, radio, Danos Direct. If you remember those ads, I think they're probably still around, to be honest. These are all things that would interrupt the flow of what you're doing and trying to attract you to purchase or convert on a service, right? Righto, so now you should understand which one of these platforms fit into which category. Is it an intent-based advertising or interrupt-based advertising? The next thing I need you to think about is that, are people problem aware of your core service? And I'll just let that sink in. Breathe. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a marketing funnel that'll make a little bit more sense to you. It's a super simple one, and I'll break down for you, okay? So we've got three parts to this marketing funnel. The top is tofu. That is not the soy-based protein, which can be delicious. I don't care what people say. Anyway, so top of the funnel are people that are potentially unaware of the problem. So what is the problem or service that you're offering? Are your target market aware of it? So it's a very simple question, okay? Middle of funnel, mofu, cousin of tofu. I don't know what it tastes like, but these are the people that are problem aware and they're actively searching for a solution. They potentially aren't on the journey of converting yet, but they are definitely searching for a solution. Bottom of funnel, bofu, which is the brother of tofu, is actually people that have decided to make a decision. They just need to know where to go, right? I'm thirsty. I want a Coke, or I want a Pepsi, when we can go deeper into brand awareness and stuff like that later on. But essentially, this is what a really simple marketing funnel is. And I want you to understand, are people aware of the core offering or service that you offer? And I'm going to give you an example, because you're probably listening to this going, yeah, of course they are, you dickhead. Well, listen to this. So my brother-in-law, and I don't think he's going to mind me giving me a plug, because all three people listening to this probably aren't going to use their service, right? But he's got a cool little business called Weigh My Ride. He does mobile weighing services for trailers, think like boat trailers, caravans, and horse floats, and things like that. Anything you can tow, essentially, okay? He brings out his mobile weigh scales. He comes to you, super cool little business. And then he tells you whether the weight that you're carrying is actually, okay for the mass that it's been rated for, essentially. And you would be absolutely dumbfounded with the amount of people that are taking brand new caravans off the lot that are overloaded. Anyway, there's side thing, whatever. His core offering are people that are potentially unaware of the problem. These are people driving caravans off the lot that are new. They are existing caravans, horse floats, whatever they are. They are not really aware that this is an issue. They just want to use their trailer. Okay, so he's figured this out by himself. He's a smart cookie, but he advertises primarily on Facebook because that is an interrupt-based advertising platform. So when people are scrolling, they look at his ads and go, well, I have a caravan. Is it, in their head, is it overweight? Do I need this service? Okay. Let's take another company that I'm currently working with one of my clients. They are a generator hire company. Now, people are absolutely aware when they have no power. So their fridges in their supermarket don't work. Their pump station doesn't work. The lights aren't on. Okay. They absolutely understand that they don't have power. So there is a lot of intent behind his service. So that is why all of his marketing, paid marketing currently, is on Google Ads, because he has a lot of strong intent-based queries. Now, does this mean that you have to choose one or the other because they're, quite clearly very different types of advertising? And the answer is, well, no, you don't need to choose. But what I would be careful about is what is the service that you're offering when you're advertising? Okay, so let's just take Weigh My Ride, for example. We all understand that his core service, his core offering, his clients aren't really problem aware, but when he goes to site, offers things like accessories. They might be tow balls, they might be wiring harnesses for your trailer, whatever it is. These are things that people might search on Google for that actually need, they have intent behind them. If I looked up the keyword, wiring plug for trailer, I'm sure there would be plenty of search intent behind that. Okay. So that is potentially something he could start advertising with to get people in as a lead magnet to his business. And then they can then become aware of another issue that potentially they've got. Okay. So maybe think about your business. If you're a Sparky, for instance, a lot of service-based businesses actually have a lot of intent behind them. That's why Google does so well. But you wanted to start advertising on Facebook rather than just advertising, I'm a Sparky. Maybe you have an offer. Maybe you've got to use this example in the previous podcast, but maybe it is, a special on coming out and checking your smoke detectors. Now, if you want to know the messaging part of it, listen to the previous podcast. Right. So, that is something that you could interrupt on Facebook or Instagram if people are like, oh, great, I could use that service. And when you come to them, you might be able to upsell them. So that is the two core differences between Google Ads and Facebook ads. Right. So I just wanted to add some, practical tips around these two platforms if you're going to start using them. First one is Google Ads, search ads. It's a bit of a learning curve, right? So the interface is pretty shit, if you ask me. Like it's just all over the place. And if you're in it a lot, you will get used to it. But if you're optimizing for conversions, which everyone should, okay, it can be quite difficult to work with. You've got to get into the back end of your website, add code snippets, all stuff like that. Potentially you might actually be working with Google Tag Manager and analytics, and it can be a bit of a mess. If you're a beginner and you're just starting out doing a search campaign and you're just driving a little bit of traffic to it, it can be really easy to get up because there's no creative associated with it. And this kind of leads me into interrupt advertising in general and Facebook advertising, okay? Again, there is slight bit of learning curve, but Facebook has done a lot of work over the years to make it really easy for you to advertise and for you to pay them lots of money. But the difference between Google search ads and Facebook or interrupt advertising is that you need a creative, right? You must have a picture, a video, whatever it is. You got to have that and put it up, and you got to have several of them to test. And then the algorithm works through those and says, this one's converting better than this one. This one also has, you should also be optimizing for conversions on this as well. A little bit easier to use the interface, but that is the main differences between Google and Facebook are that you're going to need to have a ton of different creatives and you're going to need to be testing for it to work. There are a lot of people that say Facebook doesn't work, and it's probably because creatives do a lot of the heavy lifting and they're just not putting effort into it, right? And that leads me into, I've got a new segment on this podcast. I'm super excited, right? So this is Tech Tool of the Week. Okay, so if you've been living under a rock and you don't know what Canva is, I don't know what to say. So I know this is super obvious to most, but I use Canva daily and I'm not really sure if I could do my business without it or as efficiently without it, okay? It is so super easy to use. It's ridiculous. So I should probably explain for those who don't know what it is. It is an online design tool, sort of like, Photoshop, Microsoft PowerPoint had like a baby, and it's drag and drop. You've got all these different, like now they're integrating a heap of AI stuff, which is so cool. A heap of stock images, graphics, whatever it is. Templates. So if you're doing a Facebook ad, you can literally just type in Facebook ads and it's got like a ton of different templates you can do, which is so, so cool. So the benefits for tradies is that like it's super quick to use and there's very little learning curve to this, trust me. So that was a brief overview on how your trade business might be best suited to Facebook or Google ads. Now, if you've got any value out of this podcast, make sure you leave a review, subscribe, and share this with your mum. My name is David List. This has been the Digital Tradie Podcast. And until next time, make sure you're creating some legendary content.